Okay, we're at the top of the hour, so let's get started. I would like to welcome you all to the 2015 version of my presentation on cloud solutions for the small business or the entrepreneur. And I want to show you how you can find solutions on the internet to save you time and money in your business. And what I do want to mention right off the top of this call, there will be no selling at all. There will be no offers made in this call other than a download of a list of these tools that I use. So let's get started because I've got lots of information. I've done this presentation before. It was about 3 or 4 years ago to a group of European women on a network, and I had a really good response. And I've also done it for a group, a local, women's business group, and they loved it. So I wanted to share again, but I've updated it. Things have changed. So the first thing I'd like to do, other than that typical intro slide, why would you care about who I am? You don't. You just want to find ways to boost your business, save money, and get things done faster. And that's the way I am. And I just want to tell you a little bit about my business. I have a training, coaching, speaking business, and I run this primarily through the tools that you see on my screen. I am currently on GoToWebinar, and I also do some Google Hangouts, and I use a tool called Webinar Jam to do that. What Webinar Jam does for Google Hangouts, it allows you to send some advanced links and do some of the nice things that GoToWebinar does. And I actually dropped my subscription to GoToWebinar early last year because I thought I could do everything with GoToWebinar, and that's just not true. So I'm back on, and I don't know that I'll ever drop GoToWebinar again. I use GoToMeeting for business meetings when it's one-on-one, and I do that because of the screen sharing and the ability for people to, or me, to record and then reuse that recording. So often the individual on the call that I'm meeting with wants a recording of that call, and they don't want to be taking a ton of notes. So just to let you know, I will be placing a recording of this either on my site or a link to it on my site, or maybe even publicly sharing this like I've done before with YouTube or something else. I just wanted to highlight the link at the very top here in the right. It is a link if you go to bit.ly. I don't want to give you great big long links to try to remember, but there'll be a link that's given to you in the follow-up to this presentation. And it's got the list of my tools, and it will give you some links to everything that I do. Now, what you'll find in there is a mixture. There's a very few of these links will have some sort of an affiliate link to me. So if you really want to thank me for giving you this free information, you can use that link. Go there and pick up these tools with a slight benefit to me. They're not huge, but again, a slight little bit of a basically a referral thank you to me. So I just wanted to be upfront and completely transparent to you about this call. So the thing on the bottom, the thing that you see, the big W, I use WordPress for everything, and I'll get into that. All of my sites are built on WordPress. It is the most popular piece of technology for websites today, and I do membership sites on them. So that is essentially my business. I have constructed everything, and my goal in 2015 is to make everything entirely digitized so that if I'm not there, people can get what they want. I don't necessarily have to be live with people every single day. And I've got my personal reasons for doing that. If you ever want to know, you can contact me and I'll talk to you about that. So let's move on. This is huge, so I've got to keep going as quick as I can. I might mention I have a consulting, executive coaching, speaking, training, direct sales businesses. I've got a couple of them, books, internet marketing, you name it. And this slide, I'm not in every single one of these things. But my reason, and this was the best slide I can find or picture, is that I believe strongly in multiple streams of income. And I believe that any business owner that focuses on one thing, you can be really, really, really good at one thing, and you can earn a really good income and living doing that for a while, but things happen. business changes, even if, your market changes and shifts, look at Kodak cameras or the Kodak company. They ignored digital photographs. So look what's happened to them. They're struggling and trying really hard to make a go of it in their printer business, but I've got relatives that have bought them. That's not where I'd go. But I'm just saying, I've got multiple streams, and I believe strongly in that. And again, you ask me how I can juggle these things. That's a private conversation. But you know what? I believe strongly. So what do? I do, and this is why I just wanted to mention, why should you care about cloud computing? There's so many things out there that can save you time, can save you money. Right now, today, the small business owner can do things that large corporations can do, and you can compete. And so often you either have a personal touch or you've got a personal products, and you've got advantages to doing business with some of the big companies. So this is why you should care. You can either appear that you're large, not necessarily getting you to be not transparent, but you can have a professional delivery and a professional experience and platform out there by using some of these tools. Now, there's a bit of a learning curve to using some of these tools, and at least you get to try some of these things. And, you're often, if you're buying them on subscription basis, you're not into a big investment. So what is cloud computing? This terminology was used years ago. And, cloud computing now is just the big buzzword for something that a lot of companies are saying, oh, we're the cloud computing expert. You know what? People understand now that cloud equals internet. But I just really wanted to emphasize this isn't new, so you're not getting into something new. Years ago, a project that I worked on when I was consulting, and I was what they call a road warrior, and I was traveling around the U.S. I worked on a project to help a big phone company develop an entire process and system and business called software as a service. And so companies could come to them, they were a telephone provider, and say, please host my software and my customers and everywhere in your data center. And we sold it as a service. And I helped design it, and then I helped on the sales side. How do I go out and act like an architect, an enterprise architect, to show the technical people about the system? So this is not new. There are online services for business instead of buying the software. So if you have bought a PC or computer lately, and you have a Windows PC or computer, you'll find out that Microsoft isn't even selling Microsoft Office anymore. You buy a subscription. You pay on an annual basis to use things like Word and Excel, and it's painful. I'm doing it right now. I had to buy it last year because I bought a new PC that was running Windows 8. I detest it, but it's the way it is. So, you have to kind of get over it, and there's different, I use some tools on the Apple side. Well, I'm thankfully when they do an update, they at least give me some free upgrades. But again, it's painful. These updates are painful, but we do not have a choice. This is the way things are. So get over it. If you're going to be in business and you use a computer, and I'm betting you do, you got to get over it and get involved. So why are entrepreneurs so overwhelmed? This diagram was shared with me by a fellow by the name of Rich Schefren years ago. And he sold one of the first and biggest internet marketing courses I ever took. And we're at 8 years ago now, and 7 years ago. And it's 8. Anyways, what he was saying is that all of these yellow bubbles, I've tried to highlight today tools you can use for all of those things. But if you think about it, if you are doing things online, if you're a solopreneur, you're overwhelmed because you've got so much to do. So what I want to do for you is show you some simpler ways that you can handle your business. So we're going to go through these things. And if you think about those little yellow boxes, there's a bunch of departments in a business, and that's standard, whether you have bricks and mortar or whether you've got an online business. or a blend. And so you're going to do different disciplines or activities within your company. So that's the way I've divided today's presentation. So, there's some tools you can use for marketing. So, there's different kinds of tools for marketing. If you're thinking about communication content in your audience, right now we're focused on internet. And every single company needs some kind of internet presence. It's rare that you run into somebody that doesn't. There were people that years ago that all they did was they contacted companies that didn't have a website, and they said, we're the ones. And so many people got burnt because there's so many really lousy web developers, and just fly by night. They just hung up a shingle and said, yeah, we can do this. And ideally, the perfect blend is somebody that understands technology and understands marketing and graphics and individual. But I'm telling you, there's so few where I live. I've seen so many charlatans really making a mess of this. Want more info? Contact me. Anyway, I use these specific tools for marketing. Right now, one of the hottest things is YouTube. When somebody needs an answer to a question, they typically go on YouTube and they type in their question. How do you do, if you think about the last time something broke in your house, or you were having a problem with something in your house, or with your child, or with, whatever it was, if you did a search in Google and you typed something, YouTube almost always are the top links on that list in Google. Now, me personally, I have various channels for my various businesses. And so I do this, and I've learned that most of my, I had a little sneeze. Most of my revenue has come because somebody found me on YouTube, and they found some other link to something I was doing, and they called and contacted me. So I'm not saying this completely replaces contacting and doing your face-to-face or your on-the-phone type marketing, but I'll tell you, it makes a good dent. Something I've started using since I created this video before, or this presentation before, is something called Leadpages. Leadpages.net. If you go and if you took a look at the link that I used to invite you to this webinar, that was created with Leadpages. And I've got multiple accounts for multiple businesses. And I'll tell you, if you see how you were invited to this webinar, you'll notice it's very similar to almost everything you're seeing these days. If you're on Facebook and something appeals to you and it's an ad that's being posted by Google, almost always is a link back through something through Leadpages. So very, very popular. They did a huge promotion and lots of webinars to promote it. And if you ended up with that crazy sales link that was attached to my invitation in LinkedIn or even on Twitter, I apologize. I didn't realize there's something you have to delete if you don't want Leadpages advertising attached. And I've expressed my distaste for the way that's done with them in the last couple of days. TubeMogul, years ago I used to use a tool called Traffic Geyser. TubeMogul is a free version. I still want to mention it. I don't really use it very much, just wanted to mention it. And finally, something else it's a really good tool you can use for your marketing is if you would like to share some of the blog posts you've made to get yourself from some free traffic. There are a lot of article directories out there. And eZine Articles is the top one. I have posted so many times on there, I've become what they call an expert author, and it allows me to get my work approved really quickly. But I just wanted to mention that's still powerful. I don't do it nearly as much because I do an awful lot more with social media and links to social media. So something, follow up to marketing, and I don't want to get into why is marketing and sales different, but I just wanted to mention a couple of things here. Years ago, I used to use something called Salesforce, and it's still one of the #1 tools out there, but I don't need to use that anymore. One of the things that I used to use was Jigsaw. It was a great way for me to find some warm leads. I supplied some of my contact lists, and I was able to get contact lists in other places using that. That has been bought up by Salesforce. So, really I won't even, really impress on that. I currently use a tool called Infusionsoft, and so many people call this Confusionsoft. This is not for the faint of heart. It's a very expensive tool in my opinion, and I'm actually contemplating another tool that I'm not mentioning today on how to get out of it. I don't know that I'll ever do without this. And I'll say the biggest reason for that is because I've built so many lists and so many campaigns in here, as well as I've become used to it. And I have, really spent time and effort learning it. The other part is that I have my entire e-commerce built in. It was one of the tools that would link to the e-commerce tools or online shopping cart that I use online, and there are very few options for me in Canada. So depending on where you are, most of this presentation is there are pieces of it that are a little bit location sensitive. Infusionsoft's good all over the world. I just wanted to mention that that there are some there's some pitfalls to using this, and I run into them, but they are incredibly good at helping. So if I've got something that isn't working, they've got an online chat that I use frequently, and I get my problems fixed, usually within 5 minutes. So if I've got a question, they'll help me fix it. Now, I also want to mention something called Aweber. We're going to get into something on a slide a little bit later, but I also want to say I used that for years. I unsubscribed and moved all my lists to Infusionsoft, and now I'm back on Aweber, and there's a couple of reasons for that, and I'll bring that up a little bit later. So something, if you think about some tools that you can use for human resources, I have 4 companies, and I have 0 permanent staff. I have 22 virtual staff, and they're all handled by something on this screen. So you'll see, I find that there's freelancers out there. If you grab one, and I'll tell you how to make sure you grab a good one. But if you grab one and they don't work out for you, they give you the chance to give a review at the end. And so I highlight that when you're on any of these sites, there's a way of seeking out good resources. And I became very, very good at writing specs for my work. And so when I listen to somebody say that they got burned by this developer or that coder or this person resource, I say, you know what, you probably didn't write a detailed enough spec. If you have to say exactly what it is you want. And what I do is I reuse my specs. I keep a folder of those. I'm also able on some of these tools to go back and reuse them. Now, years ago, I used to use a tool called VWorker. Well, it was called something else, and now it's called VWorker. And I've had all kinds of issues with that website, as well as I've had some good resources there, but lately I've been using odesk.com way more. And there's all kinds of these companies, and you have to kind of talk to your friends and find out which ones they're using. But I like Odesk for anything with respect to my computer, and I've picked up some really good virtual assistants there. If you really want to find experts and that's what I say, if you've got some topic and you want to research it for some specific thing you're either doing online or even something else, Guru.com has a higher quality of resources, and I will follow that on by saying Elance as well has, they're primarily creative, so you're talking about writers, you're looking for people that'll write some blog articles for you or blog. Elance is a little bit better. I found my editor for my first book here, and I mean it's not inexpensive, but I was able to do all kinds of things to research what else that person had done, what people thought about that person, as well as to see samples of their work and set up interviews. And there's all kinds of great things you can do here that are so similar to what you do with live people. Now, I'm not saying this entirely replaces live people. If you've got tasks that need to be done physically for you, let's say you've got paperwork, you put together face-to-face workshops and classes, you might need someone face-to-face. You're running an organization, you may need a real virtual assistant that's local to you. But I use multiple ones. So sometimes I have something that needs to be done to help me with some of my, my presentations. I hire someone locally. Years ago, I heard about something called Amazon Mechanical Turks. I decided not to delete it. It's still around. it was a way of outsourcing really tiny tasks, and you had to split your work into tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces. I don't currently use it, but I've thought about using it on a couple of things that I've got coming up. And finally, I just wanted to mention virtualemployee.com. That's just another source of these virtual workers. And I just wanted to mention them. This is how an awful lot of things are being done. There are ways to these are primarily out-tasking. Fiverr.com, I didn't mention. I had a WordPress problem. I had a site problem with something that was going on. And I hired a couple of people, once through Odesk, actually twice through Odesk to do something with my site. And I got really tired of going back there and trying to get them to fix it. So this was a couple of very, very specialized items. I went on to Fiverr and I found there was a resource on there, and I paid extra. They had an extra fee for paying someone to do it extra fast. And I just found someone, and they were absolutely great. I will hire that guy again in a minute. And ideally, Fiverr thinks they're people that are willing to do something for $5. And depending on your exchange rate, again, for me now, it's typically $6. But I just wanted to mention it. There's so many cool things here. And, there's just some great stuff. So I would highly suggest that you just browse it. Give yourself the luxury of browsing it once this week for about an hour or two, just seeing what kinds of things you can get done. Now, as far as storage, let's say you're doing things with your computer. I share a multitude of things with people with Dropbox.com. So I've got, as I mentioned, a couple of I've got coaching businesses, some with direct salespeople, and what they call it, some call multi-level marketing, as well as executive coaching that I do with individuals. And so many of them like me to record the coaching call that we have personally. And so I create a Dropbox for those individuals. And after we're done, I will post that recording there, or a link to that recording. I will sometimes post the documents that I share with them. I like to share templates and documents to give people shortcuts. So I will put them in Dropbox. And so again, I work with a couple of different organizations that, when you join, they give you the shared Dropbox. So to me, it's the best virtual storage right now. You'll notice that Apple is encouraging you to put things in your iCloud, and Microsoft wants you to put something. Use whatever you like and whichever one you get comfortable with. I like Dropbox, and I used to use another one that was called Box.net, and I dropped it because I found this one a lot more helpful, and as well, because I've shared it with so many people, I've got tons and tons of storage there. Now, something that, for your backup, I just want to mention, I use Amazon, and there's a couple of tools in there. I use Amazon, AWS. I load my videos and my audios there for people that come into my group coaching classes and my membership sites. And just to mention, I talked to an individual that recently moved all of his web hosting there, and he said it was really, really, really tricky. It took an awful lot of work, but he's happy that he did it. It's very, very inexpensive. And finally, on this page for storage, I just wanted to mention, I use quite a few tools that I've bought online, and I really like the company TechSmith. I use them for a lot of things. And they've got a tool called GoodSync. And I got it originally for free because I use another tool that TechSmith has. And now I pay for it. And what it does, it allows you to open two windows. So I open a window on my computer, and I open a window on my backup drive. And I'm allowed to analyze both, and it'll tell me what the differences are, and it'll allow me to sync them. So I just wanted to mention that, save you time. Very, very inexpensive tool. So now I want to move on to e-commerce. So online marketing, online selling. And I just wanted to mention again, there is PayPal. I'm sure you've all heard of that. And as well, there's a way of doing some payments with Amazon. And so there's just, there's some stuff out there. Those are relatively inexpensive ones. I find that they're getting more and more acceptable. At the beginning, there were a lot of people that just didn't want to do that. But I was recruited, or I had a company call me wanting me to do an entire radio show for them. And they wanted me to pay, of course, to, be marketed by them. And they wanted me to pay them on PayPal. There was no link online. So I refused to do it. I want to see something online because you've got credit card companies that cover you, even if you've used them for PayPal. So that's just a suggestion. Shopping carts. I mentioned earlier I use, and I don't have it on the screen, but I use something called Beanstream, and I use the shopping cart inside of Infusionsoft. And I did a big search for shopping carts that would work with my bank. So you'll have to get what's called a merchant account. This is a painful process, but you will you'll eventually get this set up, and then you likely won't want to move. So again, I got everything set up with my bank. I use TD Bank in Winnipeg and Canada, and I got set up with Beanstream. Again, painful, but I did it. And now it's so easy to use online. Somebody gives me a credit card, I go online. It's not inexpensive. I pay $70 a month for my virtual terminal, and I don't even have one. So there's a whole bunch of other tools you can get out there. There's a lot of people that are using these squares that you plug into your phone, and I've got one. I haven't fully gotten into it yet, but I'm looking right now at another tool that's integrated with something I'm doing online that may allow me to step away from using Beanstream, and there's pieces of Infusionsoft. It's just I'm just not quite sure if it'll meet all my needs. I wanted one tool that met all my needs, whether I get a credit card from somebody personally or whether I'm doing something online. I just wanted the ability to do that. Now, my third point here is Amazon Store. An A store. These are different ways of doing things. You can post things on. I don't particularly do very much here. I know that especially in direct sales companies, there's a lot of people that go online and they try selling their inventory on Amazon and on eBay. And I know for the one that I work with, our legal department is continually going and they'll put a temporary purchase, and they're doing what they can to shut these guys down. And shut people down, they'll shut down accounts. So if you are in direct sales or multi-level marketing, this is not a good place to be unloading your inventory. A lot of people do it for people that are out, and the reason it's not even a good place to shop is that there's no guarantee that that product hasn't been tampered with. So if you've got some old used books, or I sell, like I actually have a link to my book on Amazon, and that's fine, because there's no risk to somebody for doing that. And because my book is already sold on Amazon, because Amazon does it, there's no risk there for me or for them. eBay has a store. What's not mentioned on here is now Facebook has a store, Shopify. And I started setting it up before Christmas because I wanted to set something up, and I ran into all kinds of issues. So again, I would, if you are into crafting or you've got something handmade that you make, I would highly suggest that, just investigating that. Now, for my websites, there's a couple on here, hosts. There is justhost.com and hostclear.com. I actually use, and I don't know that I recommend it to everybody. I use something that's called basically a host reseller, because I've got so many websites, and it's called DatHorn. And when I want technical support, the person that owns it is he's just uncomfortable to deal with, not pleasant at all. And I have to usually hire somebody to fix some of the problems that I have, just because this guy just will not. There's just no support there. But there's Bluehost. There's a whole bunch of companies. I used one called Namecheap.com. And I got hacked so many times because they share that host. So if some things to be aware of. If you hire somebody to build your website for them, really ask a lot of questions. There's a downloadable page on SharonCEvans.com that shows you what you should be careful of. But I've seen unscrupulous local website designers in town not tell a company that they're doing the website with who they're hosting with. They'll also go and get the domain and put it in their name and hold them hostage. So make sure you really understand what's being done for your hosting, even if you're not doing it. Now, I like WordPress, and so with that host that I use, all I have to do is put the domain name in, and I can scroll down and I can click on either Fantastico or Softaculous. Those are instant installs for WordPress, and it'll just put everything where it needs to go. And it also will allow you to update from there. Now, I ran into a couple of problems with there on a couple of sites that I do have e-commerce stores on. And that's because Fantastico and Softaculous are so popular, the hackers understand it too. So there's just a couple of little things that I had to add with security. You can hire somebody for very little to change that little chunk in your WordPress so that it's secure. I also wanted to mention a piece of software. You can download this. It's called FileZilla or Mozilla, and I use that for my FTPing just so that I don't have to do that in a difficult way. Again, this is getting really technical, but I just wanted to share what I use. Years ago, when I did this presentation, I used something called SiteCell. I built my very first membership site on SiteCell. And I've recently, years ago, I moved that entire site over to WordPress. If you have ever heard or gone to one of my sites called Decide Guide, it was basically a decision-making site, a whole big, huge site on decision-making. That used to be SiteCell. And it was complicated to use, but what it did was it taught me an awful lot about search engine optimization, how to correctly build a website. Now, there's all kinds of people that are building sites on www.wix.com. There's a few of these types of sites. I tried one recently. I hated it because there's an awful lot to learn about all the technicalities of pulling and dragging things, and I just found them way more difficult to use than most of the other tools. But that's up to you. Now, as far as my domains, I have everything on GoDaddy right now, and I have a great big account with them, and it allows me to get my domains discounted because I do an awful lot with them. I put an asterisk here just because later in this call, I'm going to share with you a link, and I get a discount on my discounted rate from GoDaddy, and I just wanted to highlight that right here. But there's a few tools that I use that I'm able to get cash back on, and so I just wanted to mention that. Nameboy.com, that's kind of a cool site. I don't ever, eventually host with it, but if you really want a domain name and you try to name and you can't get what you want, go over to nameboy.com and try there because it allows you to put in a couple of words and it gives you a whole bunch of suggestions of some stuff that's open. Now, for your blogs, and I highly recommend that you have a blog. And a lot of my sites actually are blogs, but that's one of the best methods of free traffic to your site. That there is free traffic, meaning getting the eyeballs coming to your site. Years ago, blogspot.com was highlighted by Google. There's a reason to use that still. Even if you have your own site, having a copy of it on Blogspot allows you to get good ranking from Google, and as well as at www.blogger.com. Both of those you get some extra search engine boost from using those. Years ago I started with trying at www.wordpress.org, and you can host your blog for free there. But what it does is it forces you to have part of their name in your blog title. And there's ways of getting around that, but I'm just really recommending that you don't depend on that and don't do it that way because you're then hostage to the way those companies work. You don't have full control over when your changes are, and there's a lot of things you don't have full control over, and also not as good for your search engine. So I just wanted to mention that. The pros are this is very easy. Great way to start. If you just want to practice this and learn it, great idea. Now, as far as your marketing goes, I mentioned a little bit about marketing earlier, but I just wanted to mention some extra things here. I'm going to get into a little bit more, a slide a little bit later about social media. When I did this 4 years ago, I really only recommended Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And now I would recommend YouTube almost more strongly than the others. I spend my life in LinkedIn, and I've got an entire system on creating leads in LinkedIn. And I'm really close to releasing another book called LinkedIn Prospect, LinkedInProspect.com, as well as an ebook. But I highly recommend these four and having a somewhat of a presence. And again, there's a lot of people that say these eat a lot of your time. There's a way of doing this. You really have to watch how much time you spend. And what my recommendation is doing what you have to professionally, and you can use Fiverr for this, professionally get a background for your Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And as well, I also recommend, I have multiple Gmail accounts. You have to have a separate Gmail account for each of your YouTube channels. Like, there is a little bit of a way that you can make a couple of different things inside of one channel. Not everybody has multiple businesses, but I'm just being, really transparent with you about the way I do these things. Autoresponders, I also already mentioned Infusionsoft as well as Aweber. Years ago, I used One Shopping Cart. I do not use it, or Constant Contact. I've got those crossed out right now. Constant Contact, I find most of the people that have violated the spam laws that are out now are using Constant Contact. They just meet somebody, they take your name, and they put it into their list. And a lot of it is just ignorance, but a lot of people, it's cheaper or they find it inexpensive. It's very easy to use. But I don't use it because a lot of people's lists with that get blacklisted. Blacklisted means your mail isn't deliverable. And that's important. If you're going to spend the effort doing this, I would really highly recommend that you use a good one. And that's where I prefer Aweber. Copywriters, if you're going to get people to write copy for your site, so that's either blog posts or articles or even your sales letters, Elance and Guru are the best. I've done a little bit on Odesk. I had one guy that was kind of good, but for the most part, I would really go higher end on here. You can try it on Fiverr, but you get what you pay for, honest to God. Editors, if you're going to hire an editor, if you're writing a book or an ebook, I seriously would recommend going to Elance. And if you really want to get mine, give me a message and I'll let you know who I used. As far as communications go, right now we're on GoToMeeting. And I told you before, GoToWeb, and a division of GoToMeeting is GoToWebinar. It's not inexpensive, but I'll tell you, you have the ability of using your recording wherever you like. And you also have the ability to do all kinds of things and good reporting. WebEx is free or inexpensive, and you just don't have all of those benefits. I used it as a guest once, and I just really couldn't stand it. It works. There's still a few companies using it, and it's mostly because of the price. Now, I wanted to mention freeconferencecall.com. There's a lot of free conference call numbers in the US, and we've got some of these in Canada, but I put question marks here because I can't call those numbers. My telephone provider has blocked me, and a lot of those call providers does a chargeback. So before you get really set up there, I want you to be, really aware of what the rules are for the location that you're living in. So sometimes you can use these things. That's the same with this next one, fusemeeting.com. I started using it, and I thought it was a little bit easier for people to use than GoToMeeting, but I'm now not allowed. They actually canceled my account. It's very expensive for me. There was huge chargebacks. $40, about $40 an hour to the people that were dialing into the calls. So again, there's some, expensive type things, right? You have to be really careful location type things. Now, as far as Skype.com, I do almost everything on Skype. If I'm not on GoToMeeting, I'm on Skype. And the reason being is that I can call into Free Conference Call. I can do, I pay a little bit extra because I have a subscription with them. But I can call it from my phone and not be charged. I can call it from wherever I am in the world. And the other part of that is that I actually have another tool. I paid $27 for this tool called Pamela, basically Pamela.net. And I can click record. And the calls that I call into can be recorded. I can use them for myself. The other thing that I like the recorder for this is actually for you. I can do this for my podcasts. So again, I have a small fee for Skype. It's less than $50 a year. I think the current subscription I've got might have been $20-something. And I just wanted to highlight here, this is another one of these tools that I now have cash back on. So I'll get into that, don't worry. So things that you can do in operations, your operations department. Let's say you are sharing work. with somebody that you're either on a project or it's somebody that's working for you, one of these virtual staff. There's tools on Apple, there's tools on Microsoft. Google Docs tends to be the most popular. I have a subscription that's blended with one of my Gmail accounts. And so one of my Gmail accounts, I actually was able to put my domain on. I pay $4 a month. And that allows me to do projects on Google Docs. And it also allows me to, if I'm sending something to somebody that doesn't have Microsoft tools, that allows me to get a generic version of a spreadsheet or a word processing document so that somebody that's got an Apple or something in some other country, they can read it. So it's just a very easy, it's also when multiple people are maintaining a project. Now, email, there's Gmail, I'm sure that everybody's heard of it. You go to mail.google.com. There's pros and there's cons. I can't stand the way it works technically. I don't like the way it files things. I don't like just tagging things. But I have to say something. It is the best spam catcher out there. So I get very, very little spam comes into my Gmail. There's spam that gets past my Microsoft Outlook, which I still use on my Windows machine. But I find that I really spend no time going through the Google and the spam. So I just wanted to mention that. On telecommunications, I mentioned Skype already. There's a lot of people that use Google Voice, google.com and Voice. I'm not sure that's really, there's an awful lot of people using that anymore. I used to use it, and I don't anymore. I wanted to mention here again, freezeconferencecalling.com. I have had a couple of businesses, uses of the 1-800 numbers. There's tools right now that are out there that are popular instead of these. I really haven't had good success with these things. I've used 2 different companies. And again, I still have one. I've got it in the front of my book because I thought people would want 1-800. People aren't so freaked out about that anymore because so many people have cheap calling on their accounts. So this just isn't what it used to be. And I believe that, I've got a mail. I use a mailbox at UPS. I'm likely going to get rid of that mailbox. And so when I change the mailbox, and I have to change something inside my book, so that the address doesn't go to that mailbox anymore, and it doesn't, and then I can take my 1-800 number out. But I don't use these anymore. As well, there's your fax, and very few people are really sending these anymore. So I really wouldn't get too worked up about it. Again, this is location dependent. Almost every company out there is using VoIP or voice over IP. And that's what Skype does. So again, it's getting better. The technology is good. And again, this allows you to really save a lot on your telecommunications. Now, as far as your finance goes, I just wanted to mention a couple of things. QuickBooks was the most popular, and it seems to be. And I'm talking North America based. That's why I've said location dependent. But I also want to mention that there's some tools out there right now that I've heard advertised, and I thought, boy, I better go look at these things. I don't use them anymore. I've got a bookkeeper and an accountant that really prefers that I do everything in spreadsheets. And I don't do an awful lot of invoicing. So I, create those things manually through spreadsheets. My business is run on spreadsheets. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. Workday.com, that's just another tool that's, available in other places in the world. I have virtual staff that can do, like my payroll, because I use virtual staff, is all handled by those tools. I wanted to mention, my BeanStream, I have to have separate accounts if I want to do multi-currency. Very few shopping carts allow you, and they all just do conversions. So, if I'm selling something to somebody in the US and my shopping cart is all settled in Canadian. I used to have both accounts. It was an extra $70 a month to be able to have 2 different links. When the exchange rate gets big, I may change to doing that. But there's all kinds of things you can do online now with your payroll, and make sure that you've got I put bank integration because that's important. You really want to save it. It's worth having a look. So again, I started looking at some tools, and different companies didn't use BeanStream, and I thought, well, wait a minute, what are they using in Canada? And they're using a tool that I had never heard of. So again, it allows me to revisit what I'm doing with my banking. Now, you'll notice this very interesting little link that I've installed here. It says accounting software for small business, Intuit QuickBooks, up to 10.6% cashback. And you'll see a D. I've got a Doobly cashback account. And again, I get referrals for people that use mine. But I'm going to include a link for you on the follow-up to this. I just wanted to mention I get cashback, like everything. My ink cartridges for my printer, I got 26% back from something called Ink Farm. And it's just because I enrolled in this cashback, and it just was something else I could do to save myself some money. So again, it's one of my direct sales companies. Again, I just wanted to mention it. And you want to get a link from me, it's free. You can do it for free. The up to 10.6% is the VIP members. So again, if you're interested in this, let me know. I'll make sure that you get a VIP, either free or incredibly reasonably. So just let me know. So moving on, I've got the next 3 slides were an entire hour for a presentation, and I have actually a half day in this stuff. But social media has just gotten so massive, and it's become popular because people are understanding that they can do some business here. So I just included that slide. Again, I wanted to talk about different ways of using some things that are with social media. And these from that presentation, I had all kinds of I was slowly bringing this up because I had a little contest. I wanted people to guess what companies these were from. I'm not going to go through all of them. I just wanted to mention earlier I mentioned both Skype and Pamela. Those are the 2 in the very center of this diagram. Easy and articles on there. Wishlist Member, it's a tool that I use integrated with my WordPress. Just wanted to mention it. There's just a couple of other tools on here. Just the icons for them. One of the things I did not mention was Vimeo. And I have a Vimeo account, a lot more private if you're sharing video than YouTube. But there's a good reason to use it, and I really evaluated that a little while ago. Again, YouTube's getting overcrowded, and so you have to wade through all the junk. So again, I thought, okay, well maybe Vimeo gives me a bit better voice. So again, there's different reasons to use these things, but my content, when I create it, both voice and video, these and written, these are the tools I use. Now let's talk about presence tools. So how do you get people and other companies to find you online? So I talked about Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, but there's some other ones that are a little bit less common, and I just wanted to mention them. I mentioned a little bit about Google Hangouts, Google Plus. Mentioned that it's getting popular. Again, don't know how much to bank on it, but Google Hangouts are kind of neat. They're interesting. When you do one, it's kind of like having a webinar, but they are instantly uploaded to YouTube, and there's just a different integration with Google here, and there's some benefits to that. The very top one is Pinterest. I like Pinterest. Again, if you've got a business in which you sell high-end quality and high-end priced goods, Pinterest is absolutely fabulous. If you're an interior decorator or a home builder, Pinterest is absolutely fabulous. There's a lot of people that are sharing recipes and stuff on there. Okay, to each his own. But again, it's just another place, and there's some really good reasons for using it. I've also got Instagram on here. Again, I'm not a huge Instagram user, but I've got a couple of friends and clients that have high-end, retail businesses that use that to share pictures of what their store looks like as well as their goods. And of course, YouTube. Now, I just wanted to add a few more tools on here. Some of these are in the cloud and some of them aren't. So one of the things I wanted to mention, all of the Google tools, and it's worth, I would say once a year, going and visiting Google and looking at the apps that they offer. Again, I pay a subscription fee, and it's very, very reasonable for the tools that I use. On the upper right, I use something called Evernote. And I absolutely, that's the green square with the elephant. Probably one of my favorite tools there is. This allows me to save one of my Outlook emails into Evernote and file the notes inside. And the filing system is great, and the tagging system is great. I can use this on my iPad. I can use this on my Samsung phone. I can use this right at my computer desktop. and it is incredibly cool. And I use the unpaid version. I've got, hundreds and hundreds of links and pages in there. I still have yet to pay for it. So there's some benefits to using professional. I still don't use it. The one below that is Dropbox. I mentioned that already. And as well, I mentioned already Aweber and Infusionsoft. And the little box with the little owl, that's called Hootsuite. And so again, it's the way that I scheduled, a lot of my social media posts. There's some people that just can't get to that. They just hire somebody, a social media manager, to do this. And of course, Twitter. So I just wanted to mention some of those things here. Now, what does all this mean? We're getting towards the end of this webinar, and I really do want to just, really give you a summary. First of all of these things, my conversation with you about your trust and the conversation I had 4 years ago are completely different. So almost everybody is buying things online now. 44% of people of the shopping done at Christmas time was done online this year. I did 95%. Now I had a cashback program, but I decided to reduce the stress in my life. Whatever I could get online, I did. And it was fabulous. Now, some of that I did by a tiny bit on eBay. So my son is into Pokemon cards, and he really wanted some special cards. So that's where I bought a couple of them there. But and I bought a little bit on Amazon. I buy Amazon. I've got a Prime account, and I get some books on there. Although I like Audiology, which is a tool to get audio recordings, and it's also in my cashback program. I like those, and I like downloading those, and as well as I have Kindle. So I like, doing all of that virtually. But what I recommend to you is that you used to have to look to see if there was a lock in the bottom. All of these things are covered by your credit card companies. So your trust here, I truly believe that, you don't have to install anymore. Like I had to do some work with BeanStream to prove that, they were a reliable company back with my bank. But now that my bank is partnered with them. So that's the same with PayPal. You don't really have to justify anymore. PayPal has a little thing that sends you a small payment, and you verify, or you make a small payment. It's less than $1 or something. These things are secured, and so there's an awful lot more trust now. And you don't have to worry. If you've got a business and you want people to buy things online, or you want to buy things online, these are secure sites. And if you worry about your credit card getting stolen, have a credit card with a smaller balance. I have a U.S. credit card and a Canadian credit card. I typically buy a lot of my stuff on U.S. I've had that card compromised multiple times, and it's because they didn't have a chip system in the U.S. when I was traveling. 2 or 3 times now, I've had the credit card company call me, say we've put a halt on your card, ask me, do I recognize these charges? I say no. They never even make it to my card. So the credit card companies are amazing now at really monitoring this stuff, because they know that you have the ability to reverse this. And your customers are getting more trust. To put trust in, if you put your money back guarantees as far as a little link on your sites, if you're doing things online, that's a great way to build trust with the people that are buying from you. Now here's the gotchas. Some of these types of tools may have contracts. They're getting less and less now. There's so many of them that are just month to month, but you have to be careful, because some of the contracts, you may be difficult to get up. When I decided that I wanted to stop my U.S. account on BeanStream, they said, oh no, in the fine print, you've got a 3-year subscription to that. It's kind of like those contracts you've got with your cell phone companies. Be careful, read the fine lines. Some of the membership site software, they've got contracts. Again, there's work involved in getting some of these things set up for you. So that's why I just wanted to mention to you, just be aware of what they are. There's some costs for getting out of them as well. Some of these things, they may or may not be able to integrate with your site. So again, be careful. There's a lot of companies out there that are using some open source credit card software just for their inside their store. And some of them, they're way better now than they were 4 years ago. So I just wanted to mention, just check into this stuff. Make sure that they're commonly used and reputable. Now, where should you start? I mentioned a lot of things to you today. If you had a plan for 2015 about, doing some more, having better presence online, or being more efficient, or, increasing your productivity, I'm betting that some of these tools will be the answer. But I wouldn't recommend that you go through and look at the recording and say, oh, I got to do all of that. If I hit a nerve when I mentioned a tool, if you've been taking notes, take a look at your top 5 things you wrote down and put one a month on your calendar to try. Or one every second month. But you don't want to get overwhelmed, and I really don't want to overwhelm you. Again, I've got my contact info coming up. So, you want to get a hold of me, you go to that bit.ly and then bit.ly/Sharon's Tools. I'm going to put that up when this webinar, when you get the email for this webinar saying, here's your replay, I will make sure the link is in that email so that you can download it. I'm going to put a link to every single, a list of every single tool I use inside here. Right now, there's just a couple of affiliate links in Sharon's Tools on my page. And I really, really want to give you this full list. This was to be my 2015 gift to my, my business coaching clients, as well as some people that, follow me. I've just got links here on my other websites. I've got also my Skype account, and almost all of my social media. You can find me at SharonCEvans.com. I've included one of my direct sales companies here on my website, AgelessTransformation.com. Again, I'm somewhat keeping that up to date. My Facebook page for Ageless Transformation I give that 2 or 3 updates a day. So again, I just wanted you to be able to get a hold of me. I have to tell you that there's some people that I'm careful about who I connect with on LinkedIn, and some of the different, depending on who you are and what company you're with, whether or not Twitter, I have next to no qualms about that, but Facebook and LinkedIn, I'm somewhat careful about the things that I accept. So if that's all for you, I will open this up for questions. And if you've got questions, you can also email and send them to me later through any of these messages. So first question on the list, how long do you spend on social media a day? I've got a program that I deliver to my business coaching clients where I share with them how they can spend 22 minutes a day. And I've got a spreadsheet, and I've got a plan, and I teach them all how they can plan out their social media. I use a couple of different tools now than I used way back when I created that. And so now I would say it's closer to 25 minutes a day. But I just wanted to mention that that's about how long I spend a day. Okay, I've got a list here that says, who are the people that you use for your virtual assistants? Again, if you were to privately message me, I'm more than happy to share some of the people that I'm with on some of the virtual staff. My virtual staff, I occasionally share those lists with people, and I'm not going to be sharing that list of my virtual staff on this Sharon's Tools. I want to mention that I typically, there's a few countries that I just will not. I potentially, when I'm searching for virtual staff on any of those sites, there's a couple of them that allow you to filter out different countries. And there's different countries that I filter out, and it's just my personal belief, just based on the kind of amounts of spam that I've received in the past. So I don't have anybody, I just block them. And I just don't even get that. I don't even want that to be an option. And so I know in the past that sometimes I've gone through and I've found, oh, here's the person that I really want to work with the most. And I really, I just, at the end of the day, I find that, oh, they're in a country that I just don't want to start doing business there. Again, I just, there's things about my company and I just don't want to do. So I really want to, I'm going to close off for today. I just really wanted this to be an hour and not a big, huge, long waste here. If you've got more questions, please send me messages and I will post more videos and links with the answers on my site or in my YouTube channel. Thanks for attending today. I hope you